Hello, fellow travelers. I'm Dr. Hector. Welcome to Soucouyant, a Caribbean supernatural tale, where we reimagine the Soucouyant, a character from the folklore of the Caribbean. Here we follow her as she is depicted in Trinidad. Her depiction might be different in other places in the Caribbean. If you know about the Soucouyant, I hope you like this reinterpretation. If you are new to the Soucouyant, I hope you enjoy meeting this new character and that she motivates you to look into other folk characters, not only from the Caribbean, but also other places. Episode 21, Soucouyant, a Caribbean supernatural tale, Papa Bois. In the previous episode, we saw Mrs. Lee face the pain of seeing her husband, and the staff enjoying a nice dinner together. We heard the Soucouyant hint at some form of salvation for Mr. Lee. We were introduced to Papa Bois. In the current episode, Papa Bois explains his relationship with the forest and with humans.
As I said before, Kaiwa speaks very highly of you, so I wanted us to meet.
Kaiwa interjected. He is very literal. He's been watching you and watching over you all of your life. He knows you, but you never met him. How do you know me? Asked Margarita.
I've watched you gazing at the forest while doing your chores. As a child, you would wander aimlessly in the forest.
I've always loved the trees and the mossy woody smell. The smell of the soil, the earth, sticks in my memory to this day, said Margarita.
I know. I could tell you love the forest,
said Papa Bois. I've always felt safe in the woods, said Margarita.
I know. I made sure you were safe. Not even a mosquito bite or any other bug or bother.
Margarita started with a tinge of apprehension and indignation in her voice. You were watching me?
Not exactly watching you. More like being aware of you, of sensing you. Watching over you is not the same as watching.
Then how? Asked Margarita.
I don't know how to explain it to you.
Margarita sat on a bolt of cloth and looked at him in an attitude of being ready to listen. He looked at Kaiwa and laughed. Kaiwa joined him, and his laughter was rich and deep and good-natured as the woods. Kaiwa smiled and said, I told you of her spirit.
Yes, you did.
He addressed Margarita.
Trees, bush, and grasses have a basic awareness of their environment and any goings-on. They broadcast it continually. The animals have a higher awareness that they also communicate. I am receptive to these communications and broadcasts. Usually it's about the breezes or rain or animal activity, from feeding to pooping, from sex and birth to death. It washes over me like waves. Are you following me?
Are they sentience, sentient? Asked Margarita.
Oh, he said, the human term, sentience. It's been defined as feelings and being aware. Then humans decreed that humans are sentient. So I think it's a matter of degree. Other non-human animals have senses tuned to greater ranges than humans. If you take vision, most birds and bees see things humans can't see. Many birds use the magnetic fields of the planet to guide where they go. Bats, canines, and felines hear things humans can't hear. I could go on, but I think you get the point.
Margarita nodded, then looked at Kaiwa and said, yes. I've heard stranger things recently. We have sentience to match your place. Kaiwa laughed. That is true. You analyze things so wonderfully. Thank you, said Margarita. Before Margarita could respond, John asked,
May I continue then?
Yes, please do, said Margarita.
We are humans, kind of.
John continued. Humanish, interrupted Kiowa. I call us humanish, remember? Margarita nodded. John said,
Oh, yes, I did remember. I like your term. I didn't know you used it with Margarita.
I have, said Kiowa. She gets it.
Well, being humanish, we have awareness and feelings more than you humans can understand. If we used ourselves as the standard, you would not be sentient. You know how humans treat other parts of creation, animal, vegetable, and so on, that you consider not to be sentient?
We don't treat them so good, said Margarita with a shudder. So, you mark us as not being sentient?
No, sentience is a human term, not one our kind would use. It's not a humanish way of thinking. Existence is good enough for us,
explained John. Margarita nodded, but a slight sag in her shoulders showed she felt relief. Papa couldn't bring himself to hunt. He preferred to hike through the forest. Existence was good enough for him too, I guess, she said.
Ah, yes, I think so. When you and your dad wandered and hiked, your presence and activity were broadcast and communicated. I pay attention, focus more on the communications whenever humans are involved. I don't have to go to the scene. I could stay away and direct things a bit, kind of like your orchestra conductor.
Kiowa laughed and said, in addition to being very literal, he is prone to understatement. What do you mean? Asked Margarita. It's more than direct things a bit. Oh, I know the power of Papa Bois, said Margarita. What is prone? Oh, Kiowa laughed. It's another $5 word. It means he does it a lot. Oh, said Margarita. John laughed.
Well, that's how I watched over you and your father before you, and his father before him. Your love of the forest did not begin with you. Your father taught you to love the forest. Your grandfather taught him, and his father taught him. I watched over all of them.
Ah, Papi was a great hunter, but Papa didn't hunt, said Margarita.
Your Pappy was a hunter, but he only took as much as he needed to feed your father and your aunts. He didn't hunt for sport. Your father was a good electrician and didn't have to hunt to feed you and your sisters.
He took me to the land he cleared into fields for cassava, bananas and peas and papaya in season. When he and I helped when I was old enough, finished weeding or mounding, we walked about in the forest. He showed me all kinds of interesting things few people ever saw. I remember he showed me lakes where little mannequins did their courtship. Their dances were so clever and nice.
He taught you how to sit still and watch.
It was difficult at first. Jen's laugh was warm when he said,
You chased away so many mannequins, you threatened the size of the flock in the area.
I did?
Yes. I guided you away from many lakes that your father found on his other trips without you.
Did he know you guided us away?
I don't know. I don't probe your minds, the minds of humans.
He smiled at Kiowa before continuing.
I suspect he did know. I think your father trusted me to keep you both and the forest safe.
Did you ever appear to him?
He seemed to understand I was everywhere in the forest. He knew my spirit is in every butterfly and every blade of grass. He didn't need to see me be conspicuous. So, no, I never had to assume a human form for him.
Sometimes we saw deer. Was that you?
I have assumed that form, not many times. I take the form of trees most often. I like being a tree. Sometimes I take animal forms, but you never saw me. It was your own good luck when you saw deer.
During their conversation, the sun dropped further below the horizon, and the fluorescent light in the store appeared brighter, in contrast to the darkness outside. They sat in a lengthening silence. Margarita looked from John to Kaiwa and back again. The two kinds looked back at her with small, pleasant smiles on their lips, without any sense of purpose beyond the moment. She was amazed at her calm response and acceptance of being in the company of two of the most powerful entities from her childhood stories. They, in turn, looked at her with the air of patient adults interacting with a precocious child. The time felt as if it stood still and was not slipping by. Margarita suddenly shook herself out of her reverie. She said, "Oh my, time is just running. I better get home." Then she paused and said, "How will I deal with this experience?" "Oh, you know in your heart about this when you recognized me," said Kaiwa. "I guess I did," replied Margarita.
When I sensed you, you sensed me too.
John nodded and added,
Children accept the things they sense. Adults sometimes deny what they feel, their senses.
I know, said Margarita. We get busy taking care of day-to-day chores and errands.
That's partly true. Other parts are important, but you're concerned about traveling home.
Yes, I am, Margarita replied. The last time I traveled home after Kaiwa, Gemma showed me who she is. I was suspicious that everyone I met in the street was your kind, humanish. Kaiwa told me that you are not many, but are many of you out there looking human? Do I walk by any of your kind? Kaiwa smiled but didn't say anything. John spoke up and said,
No, you don't walk by any of our kind.
He looked over at Kaiwa, who said, I used my kind when I explained who we are, but I came upon we're human, but not quite. Humanish.
Oh, I see,
said John. Kaiwa turned to Margarita. We have decided to look at that concern you mentioned. Many of us are moving around you humans incognito. Another $5 word. Hiding. Oh, I know what incognito means. I finally know one of your $5 words. Margarita laughed. How will I know not many of you are incognito?
You will be acknowledged when any of our kind are nearby.
Oh, will they come up to me and shake my hand or nod at me? That would be strange, having strangers just coming up to me. We are more subtle than that, laughed Kaiwa. Do you remember how you felt walking in the forest and smelling the loamy soil? Yes, it was a comfort to me all my life, said Margarita. When one of us encounter you, you will feel that feeling, said Kaiwa. Margarita smiled. In the following episode, we see how the Soucouyant and Papa Bois travel. Their way of traveling enters into areas of mystery that were not explored in the folk tales.